When you first get the product, I always double check everything. I have a little power supply here from an old computer. Perfect little diagnostic or anything to test with that's not high current. But I always plug it in, just kind of test everything to make sure everything turns on. So when you open the box, this is what you're going to get. These are like little foam pads with the screws and all that. I'm not going to be using these pads. I'm trying to kind of make it to where it's very hidden and very tucked in the wheel well, and this kind of puts it down a little bit lower, which I don't really want to do. I ended up getting an extension too for the rears, since this is a truck, so it's going to take a little bit longer to run it to the front. This is the controller, and you're going to have to download the app. That way you can control the functionality of these Rocklights. So I'm going to go ahead and take apart the Silverado and then show you how to install this kit. So we're going to go to the wheel well. To remove this cover right here, you're going to need a T15 Torx bit to get all of these screws out. They're not a Phillips, so you're going to need a Torx screw. It's one of these things right here. So go ahead and start removing everything and then kind of pull it down so you can drill 2 holes and then get the nut on the other side and mount the light. I'd say probably about right here. I just went ahead and took off as much as I can. This is all you really need, is to be able to bring it down like this so you can drill a hole. We're going to be drilling the hole right here. The reason being is that it goes to a hole up here, so you don't have to worry about it getting cut and things like that. So go ahead and drill a small hole in the middle and then mount the light just right behind it, and then that would take care of the mounting of the light itself. Now you will need a small drill bit right here. You're also going to need an Allen head to fit the screws that they provided. I hope this is not long enough that it'll hit the metal piece, but if it does, I'm going to go ahead and replace it with a screw. So I'm going to see what I need to do first and then pretty much let you know what I come up with. So I went ahead and added just one bolt for now, just to hold it. I did switch from a small one, which drills this part, and then the big one drills where the wire is going to go through. So for this one, don't drill too big, as you want it to kind of have the washer on the other side be tight. So go ahead and pretty much put the wire through and then drill the second hole. And here's where that wire that I was telling you about, as you can see, once I put the other one on, it sits flat without any gaps. I have one mounted pretty much securely so far. So you can see it's tightened, and it's going to go to that wiring harness right there, zip tied in. So this would take care of the driver's side. That's what it's going to look like right there, where it's not too visible, but obviously I'm looking under so you can see it pretty good. But if you're standing next to it, you'll never even see it. Just like that. So go ahead and pretty much route the wire to that harness in the edge right there, and then zip tie it, and that should take care of the driver's side, and that's LED 1. So you can see, give it a little bit of slack right here, zip tie it to this harness right here, and you might be wondering why this one's not tight. There's a purpose for that. That way, all I'm trying to do is to keep it from going to the other side. So all this is going to do is kind of hold it in place. So when I close it, as you can see right here, see, all it's doing is pretty much holding that wire in place. So you can do that if you desire, but to me, it's kind of just safer to do it that way. So pretty much the driver's side, or the passenger side, is done. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the driver's side, and I'll show you what that looks like. Moving on to the driver's side, I did notice it's missing 2 screws. Seems to be everything is in there, so that's about the only thing we're missing. Oh, we're missing one down here as well. So we're gonna address the customer on that one and pretty much proceed getting these LEDs in. I got the driver's side done. Just in case you're wondering what I'm using for reference to make it center, I'm actually using this little nub right here. This is the center, in my opinion anyway. But I'm using that as the center point. As you can see, it's in the middle if you try to line it up. So figured just in case somebody was wondering. So the wire is conveniently zip tied to the harness that's going to the fuse box in the engine bay. Just kind of leave it a little bit of slack, that way it's not so tight in there. But try to move the wire kind of away from the bolts itself, just an extra precaution. But anyway, we're moving on to the rear. This one's already tightened up, so we're going to go ahead and put back the screws to hold the wheel well. So we're in the back wheel. This one I had to take off a little bit more screws than what I wanted. I didn't take off everything on this side, but obviously you need to do it on this side so you can see where you need to run your wires, which I'm still kind of planning that ahead, but I believe I'm going to put a split loom, since it's going to be in the middle of this metal or the bed, and then this wheel will cover. So I'm going to go ahead and mount the light and then run a loom just from that side, just so until it gets to this area right here, and then we'll see how or where I can even run the wire. But more than likely I'm going to be tracing the engine harness from the bottom, so I'll go ahead and mount it first and then show you what that looks like. Here's what the rear looked like. I ended up using one of these little humps right there, that way to compensate for the length of the screws that they provided. So I'm gonna go ahead and pretty much just kind of tuck this wire down here and then run it to the side of the bed, and then start figuring out how to run it to the engine bay. So we're gonna go ahead and put this back together and then move on to the passenger side. I forgot to mention on the other side, you don't have to fully take it out, just leave one of the screws in here. You only need the side that goes towards the front. But for this one, since it has like a little lip right here, and this thing overlaps on the other side of it, you're gonna have to kind of use a flathead or one of these panel removers to pretty much pop it off that way, because you want it to kind of push this out to pass this lip right here. So it is kind of a pain, but it's doable. I'm underneath the truck now, but figured I'd show you how to wire the passenger side light in the rear. I browsed around YouTube just to kind of see how everybody was running it, since this one doesn't really have a harness compared to the driver's side rear where you can have something to follow. But this is kind of how I did mine. Obviously I have it to the metal, and don't make it very tight, to this, and then it loops back down. And for this one I have to have like a long zip tie to hold it to the frame on the top side. And then as you can see, it's on the top of the frame. Same goes here. And you can see right there, it's not touching anything that's hot or that's moving. And continue to zip tie all around the frame on top. Vice versa right here. And then when I got close to the body mount, I went ahead and zip tied it to that 2-hole right here. Went over. And then this is about as far as the harness goes. So luckily we have an extension. So we're going to go ahead and continue running it to the front. I do need to get more zip ties since I ran out. So let's go ahead and connect the extension, zip tie it more, and then have it come out to the engine bay. So in the previous video, I showed you where the cutoff length for the non-extended light. So I went ahead and extended it. So obviously I'm still running it on the frame. And then I'll show you where I ran the rest. Sorry, I'm crawling around the truck. Then once you get to the O2 sensor cat converter area, you will zip tie the harness on the other side where the plug for the O2 sensor is. And then let me show you this side. I already have that running as well. And then it's going to come out right here. And all you have to really do is follow the harness up there, and then it'll meet the passenger side light that I ran earlier. So this one's pretty much ready to go. Now I got to figure out if the driver's side is needing a second extension. It already have it extended, but I don't know if it's gonna run all the way to the passenger side battery area. But let me go ahead and run that, and then hopefully it reaches. Just to show you how I did the passenger rear, or the driver's side rear, got the wire kind of, see if I can get it real quick, right here on the back right there, and then you'll just go over and then follow the harness right there. And then when you get to this side, make sure it doesn't get in between the mounting spot for the bed. Pretty self-explanatory. You can also use this little thing that Chevy had right here to put your wire. I did utilize that and just kind of put a zip tie every so often. And then when I get to this side, go over it again and make sure it's not in between the mounting spot right here. So you can see right there, make sure it's not gonna get pinched or anything like that. Show you right there. And then vice versa, here's the extension right there. And make sure when you do this, don't make it too tight. You want to give it a little bit of a wiggle room. That way when the truck flexes, it's not gonna like tug on it. Same goes down here. And then once you get to the area right here, just kind of zip tie it along until you get to the top, and then merge it with the driver's side front LED. So, but I just wanted to show you that way you have like a reference on how to run the rear driver's side. But let's go ahead and get to the engine bay and tie it all together and plug it into the box. So I pretty much got the wiring harness zip tied along with the stock harness. We did get lucky, we don't need a second extension. Here is the driver's side rear. As you can see, it's barely made it. So thankfully that was long enough. So we can go ahead and keep pretty much wiring everything up. I already took the battery post nut off, so that's where the power is going to be. Obviously on the other side is ground. And then we're going to tuck all the harness kind of like in this area. That way it's out of sight, out of mind. But we are pretty much getting close to being completed. Like I said, I'm just thankful that the harness is long enough. So I'll go ahead and tie everything up and then show you what that looks like. Pretty much got everything done. Just to show you one last thing about where I mounted everything. Obviously the ground right here. Power, make sure you add a fuse. I mounted the box right here. And no, there's not anything underneath it that's touching. All the terminals are kind of on the back. So it's an open void right here. And make sure when you run all the wires, I zip tied everything down here. Make sure you don't put it like in this area. You have to avoid this spring for the hood. So just kind of tuck it in just a little bit in the back. So don't make it too tight. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wait till it turns dark a little bit and then show you what it looks like. You're welcome.